You ever notice how people absolutely freak out when somebody leaves an organization and goes someplace else? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why that happens. Hey, what's up, my friends? Todd Falcone here. Welcome back to another episode. Today this will probably be fairly brief, but I had a conversation a couple days ago and somebody was just like, dude, why do people freak the out when somebody leaves a company and goes someplace else? Like, that doesn't happen in corporate America. Like imagine a C-level executive, a CEO, CMO, CFO, C whatever O. They leave and they go to a competing company and they take on that role, or maybe they take on a different role. Maybe they went from VP to president at another company, and people are like, well, they just go, and then there's going to be a new VP at that company and it's business as usual. And my buddy, who's pretty new to network marketing, he's like, I don't get it. He's like, what? Why do people trip out so much? Like, they go into like panic mode, and then they're unfriending people and they're mean, and it's just like just a bunch of babies. Like, what's going on here? And I was like, dude, let me tell you exactly why. And I guess not everybody fully understands this, but it is important to understand why people do that. Like, even in a lower level position in a corporation, like one of your work colleagues, the same. Not to say that you're at a low level position, but let's say where the masses are, the mid level people, and they somebody leaves and they go to another company. Even at no level do people trip out, but in network marketing, if a low-level person in network marketing is not making any money, is not on the radar, they leave, it doesn't really make any kind of an impact. But you get somebody who's making, I don't know, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month or more, or especially when it's somebody who's making 50 or 100 or more. And yes, people do leave companies at 50,000 a month, 100 grand a month. That does happen. It's not super usual, but it definitely happens. So most of you guys probably understand this, but for those of you that don't, it is important. Like, because here's the deal. Like, when somebody leaves a company, a network marketing company, let's say they're making 50 G's a month, and they're leaving for whatever their own reason is. Well, when they leave, first of all, there's a lot of attention to that, and people are, especially at higher level positions, people are like, wait a minute, this guy's super successful, or this woman's, making all this money. What's wrong? And then they start to question. First of all, this has nothing to do with the anger issues and the people tripping out on one another, but they're like, it's like their world has been kind of shocked. It's been rocked a little bit. It's like, wait, I thought this was a great company, and now this person who's this like big leader, they left and they went to another company. Like, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with the company? And that's not always the case. In fact, most of the time it's not the case. Sometimes it is, but very rarely. People have all sorts of different reasons why they leave, but the core reason why people trip out is because everyone is attached to one another in some way, shape, or form, financially speaking. Like, even people that are not in the same lines of sponsorship, if a significant leader leaves publicly and goes to another company, and let's say that upline was not even your upline, it was like in somebody else's leg, like there was no structural, you weren't in their structure. Like, they're over here and you're here. Even in that case, people trip out because, there's that could damage my income, because now people on my team might be doubting that this is the right company, or is there something wrong? And so whether they follow them or not, in fact, in most cases, when somebody leaves, the masses, like, let's say somebody had a big organization, let's say they had 50,000 people in an organization, 50,000 people aren't leaving. Maybe a small percentage of those people will go with those individuals, but it's definitely not 50,000, and it's never even close to that. But because people are financially attached to one another, that because it's not the same thing as corporate America. Like corporate America, it's like, we work together and you get your salary, I get my salary, and that person's, there's not this attachment. And so the attachment in and of itself is the reason why people trip out. And so, sometimes, I get why that happens. I completely understand it. So if you don't understand why people freak out when somebody leaves, now you know. It's very simply that there's this financial attachment to other people in the organization, whether it's direct financial attachment where I'm in that person's downline or I'm not in that person's downline, and my, the emotions of the people on my team or even my own emotions are impacted by that person leaving and going to another company, which, in many cases will cause a kind of a short-term, it's like a short-term storm. It's like interesting because I've seen this happen so many times, and I've consulted a lot of people through this, where somebody leaves and they go someplace else, and it's like this. It's a shitstorm, and it's, people are flaming each other, mad at each other, unfriending, blocking, like just all sorts of negative energy. And honestly, that typically lasts like maybe up to a month, and then it's over. And then it's just like, oh, business as usual. So, a company where somebody leaves, they a lot of times are going to see some dip. The company could be going in a vertical growth phase or some significant growth, and there's no dip because there's just so much growth in other places. But, that organization that person left is most certainly going to be impacted negatively for the short term. But I guess it's like, well, what do you do if you're just, you're a newer person, or you're a person kind of like you're rising through the ranks, if you will, and trying to make your way. And then this person that had, all sorts of accolades, and they were a public figure in the company, and they were, their name and their face was everywhere, and people always associated that person with that company, and then they leave and they go someplace else. Does that mean that there's something wrong? No, it doesn't. Again, like I said, rarely does it mean that there's something wrong. I've seen people leave great companies. In fact, you could be in a total vertical growth company that's just like the talk of the town, and people leave those companies. So one thing you have to understand as a networker is that people leave companies. Mid-level, high-level people leave. I mean, we know that newbies or beginners or people that aren't making any money or just kind of bumbling around, that those people oftentimes just don't have the stick-to-itiveness to stay long enough to figure out how to make it happen. But people do leave companies, so that's something that as a networker you need to embrace that. Hey, our company could be crushing it, and people could still leave. And we just need to know how to handle that. So I didn't know if I was going to get into this in this episode, but I guess I kind of will. So when somebody leaves, like let's say a significant person leaves a company, now that you understand like the emotional side of it, why people trip out, what do you do? Like how do you deal with that? Well, here's my suggestion to you. Is first of all, I'm gonna protect the flock. I'm gonna protect the family. I'm gonna protect the organization, and make sure that people know that, hey, I don't need to stand up there and say I'm not leaving. I don't need to like even plant that negative seed where they might, were you thinking about leaving? You don't need to do any of that. But it's business as usual. Instead of sweeping it up underneath the rug, people are probably already talking about it. There's an awareness that this particular person left and went someplace else. I wouldn't have a problem like handling that. Hey, look, guys, you guys know that so-and-so left the company, let's say on a training call or Zoom or something like that. And just say, hey, look, people leave for all their own reasons, and they felt like that was a better move for them. But, nothing has changed here. It's business as usual. Let's get after it. And so I think, showing your teams that you are, unwavering and not impacted, and it is business as usual, because it is business as usual. Just so you understand that, again, it's usual for people to leave companies. It's not like every day you have top leaders leaving companies, but it's not like it's abnormal. It's very normal for that to happen. So when that does happen, you just need to let people know, like, hey, it's business as usual. We're getting after it. We're, you're not focusing on, oh, woe is me or everything. I mean, you might have to say, look, hey guys, there's nothing wrong. Like if you're questioning, is there an issue? Is there some kind of problem at Bay that that you don't know about? Look, business is good. Company's shipping products on time. Everything's good. Checks are being delivered on time. Everything is business as usual. All is good. That person, for whatever their own reason, felt like they needed to move. And that's cool. And I want you guys to all understand that happens. People leave companies. And so at some point, some of your team needs to be aware that this is part of the game of network marketing. People come and people go. And then, what I will do is if somebody leaves and they go to another company, for example, and let's say they're in a particular Facebook group or something, I will take them out of the group. And any of the people that choose to go with them, they'll be taken out of the groups and they'll be taken out of any kind of communication flow. So I basically will cut them off from any kind of communication if they went someplace else to protect the house. To protect the family, right? So that's something that you ought to be doing. And but I don't I'm of this philosophy, like, hey, I'll love you on your way in, and if you leave, I'll love you on your way out. Like, if you're cool, I'm cool. But if you're like a jerk and you're like sniping people and calling people from different organizations and not even in your own organization, and you're trying to do everything you can to just like tear that company apart that you were just like 10 days earlier was the greatest thing since sliced bread for you, and now it's not because you went someplace else, then that's just not cool. I mean, so I and you should, protect your assets and protect your flock. And so just, I would cut them out of all the communication, take them out of any kind of Facebook group. Sometimes they just voluntarily remove themselves from groups because they know the move that they're making, and that's cool too if they do that. And again, if it was somebody that was on my team that was a high-level leader that was leaving, I would be like, hey, look, I mean, what's up? Everything okay? Well, no, obviously not. Look, if you feel like you got to go someplace, go. I mean, you got to take care of you got to do you. Like, I got no problems. I'm not going to be a jerk to you. Like, if you got to go here and that's the thing that you need to do, go for it. And I wish you nothing but the best over there. And I totally, truly mean it when I say that. And, because sometimes people leave, when they leave, I've had people come back. I've had big leaders leave and come back. Most of the time they don't, but if I'm a total jerk on the way out and I'm like, well, screw you, blah, 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 you're an ass, then they're never going to come back. But if I treat them with respect, and I think respect has to go both ways. So, and I think there's really only a couple ways to leave a network marketing company. There's like the clean way. Honestly, if I was to ever, and I have left companies like over my entire tenure of being involved in network marketing, I've left companies. And when I did, I left everything intact. Like, I just kind of disappeared off into the sunset. I didn't recruit any of those people into another deal. That asset, that organization was left intact. And I went on to build something else with a fresh set of people. And in 3 cases, well, I've never been terminated from a company. So those companies continued to pay me over time. Like, even to this day, I still get paid from a company that, I mean, I haven't probably put anybody into in 18 years. And they still pay me. Because I didn't go steal people, put them in another thing now, because then you got cause for termination. So, I don't understand why people, well, I understand, but like there's, you see people that will now like resign, and I guess that's kind of clean. They resign from the company, whatever. They resign and they go to another place. I've never felt like I needed to resign either, because I'm like, well, I mean, I built this, for example, and, this is an asset that's still continuing to pay me. Maybe I'm not entirely enthralled with what's going on, for example, which is why I might have left. But I'm not going to go tear that apart. I'm going to leave that intact, because who am I to take somebody else's dream away from them? If just because there's something not right with me and how I feel about it, there might be people that are completely enamored with it, right? So you're gonna take somebody who is like super pumped and super excited about what they were doing and making progress, and then you're gonna be like, oh no, I mean, there's bad things, and maybe it's not even bad things. Maybe it's just you had an issue, and your issue has nothing to do with anybody else. And so now you're swiping the carpet out from somebody else and planting a seed of doubt, which is not good. And it's just, it's no bueno. So I don't know. I mean, the main purpose of this message was first and foremost, just so you understand why people trip out. And they trip out because of the financial attachment, the intertwining financial attachment that we have with other people in the organization, which does not happen in corporate America. Does not happen. If it does, it's not even remotely close to the way it does here. And it very rarely happens in corporate America either. But then again, it's just how you handle it, right? I guess my main suggestion is protect your flock. Keep the people that are leaving out of your communication flow. Business as usual, getting back after it. Not skipping a beat. And, because everybody's watching you. They're like, well, what is, I've had people leave a company and then they're calling me up. Are you leaving too? I'm leaving what? Like, I ain't going anywhere. What are you talking about? Are you leaving? No, I'm not leaving. So it's like sometimes you got to make sure that your team, when somebody like that, like a higher level person leaves, that they know that, your flag is planted and that you ain't going anywhere, because that's going to give them a greater degree of security and certainty, knowing that their leader ain't going anywhere. So anyhow, what's up? All right, so that's it for the day. YouTubers, appreciate you guys. My podcast people appreciate you as well. All the details on this episode and other episodes and good stuff to help you win in the game of network marketing right here, toddfalcone.com/episode 265. That's TODDFALCONE.com/episode 265. We'll see you next time.